All right, we are live here Sunday morning, another great Sunday morning because there's a full day of football ahead. Welcome to Endgame Fantasy Live, and we're here to talk about the latest injury updates. All right, who's in, who's out, and answer those tough start-sit questions. First, a huge shout out to all our viewers, not just those who are with us right now today, but the loyal viewers, those of you who've been with us each and every week for the past few weeks since we've been doing this. Thank you so much. You know that we appreciate it. Spread the word, guys. Tell everybody because we're here to help you win and, of course, answer all your questions. As many as you got, we'll get to them as fast as possible. All right, so let's get right to it and talk about our latest updates, what we have, and, of course, things change. There's some game time decisions. We'll do our best to keep you informed there, but let's start with who is back, right, guys, who have been off the radar for fantasy the last couple of weeks. Andy Dalton looks like he's a starter in Dallas again. Say what you want about that, but obviously, I think he deserves a shot, but he's the one that they trust. He knows the playbook best. Obviously, Gary Gilbert looked okay his last game, but Andy Dalton looks like he is the starter. Personally, I think that's probably the right decision. I think that helps the wide receivers in Dallas. It's a great matchup against Minnesota. So I, talked about this in start sit. If you watched our episode a couple of days ago for wide receiver start sit, I'm firing up Cooper for sure. Lamb, I think is pretty much a must start. And then Gallup, obviously, is always boom bust. Even with Dak Prescott at quarterback, he was still kind of boom bust. But you could go with him if you need to. I'm sure we'll get some questions about all that. And then Calvin Ridley, the latest that we're seeing, I know he's been really iffy in and out as far as, reports for practicing and not practicing. He is off the injury report for week 11, and that's huge because going against the Saints, that's a great matchup for the receivers there. We'll definitely talk about that game a little bit more later on, but it looks like Calvin Ridley is back. And then Alan Lazard, one of my personal favorites, he's back in a terrible matchup against the Colts, but you know what? He's going to be active. And then we'll get into the Patriots running game because we must. Sonny Michel has been activated. Chris, I know you have very low hopes for Sonny Michel in terms of fantasy. You've never been really a Michel fan, but I wonder if you think they're actually going to throw him into the fray because another guy we'll talk about who is in, Damian Harris, has been questionable all week, and seems like he's questionable every week, and then he still plays, but he's in. He is going to still play, and I love me some Damian Harris, and I even said that he is my must start for this week. What do you see happening in that matchup?
I mean, I see Damian Harris getting the bulk of the work, but I'm sure Sonny Michel will take some carries from him, as will Rex Burkhead probably. But coming back off a injury, I don't expect Sonny to have a huge workload, and Damian Harris looked really good. So I'm sure the Patriots feel good about Damian Harris. So maybe like 80-20, Damian Harris, Sonny Michel, if I had to guess, something like that. And neither of them catch passes, so they're just gonna, they're both just the running. I guess Sonny Michel does a little bit, but Damian Harris doesn't at all. So, yeah, 80-20 on the carries would be my guess.
Well, that's the weird thing is Damian Harris, he's not catching any passes really, but Sonny Michel doesn't either, so it's not like it really matters. Burkhead is still going to be kind of worked into the mix as far as that, goal line work. It's really frustrating, especially Cam Newton there, to vulture touchdowns. So, I mean, just when you thought you had somebody you could trust and Damian Harris, as the main guy, this just kind of complicates things. But I'm not backing off. I really don't think Michel will get that much work. He'll just be mixed in. So I still think it's a great start, right, against the Texans defense. I still have full faith in Damian Harris. Who else is in and back? Drew Lock and Noah Fant have been questionable all week. It looked like Drew Lock wasn't going to play, which might actually have been a good thing for the Broncos based on how he played last game. But he looks like he will go, and so will Noah Fant. Against the Dolphins, though, I'm completely out on this offense. Not just because I think the Dolphins defense is the most dominant in the NFL, but based on the way Lock is playing, I mean, obviously you're not playing Lock, but Fant, I'm out on him too this week.
Yeah, I know you have him as a must sit, which is tough to do because there's not really a lot of great tight end options, but definitely I think it's going to be a down game for Noah Fant. And yeah, Drew Lock, I mean, man, if you have the Dolphins DST, just feel good because big game incoming.
Right. Yeah, it might have been, like I said, with Rippon, nothing special there, but at least he he at least does less of the whole let's throw it up for grabs and see what happens thing, and forcing a double coverage. He's a little safer as far as the way he plays. But yeah, Dolphins DST is definitely some chalk this week. And then it looks like Matt Stafford is going to play. He's been having some thumb issues. But here's the bad news as we transfer to who is out. He's not going to have Kenny Golladay. He's not going to have Danny Amendola, and he's not going to have DeAndre Swift. This is going to be an ugly game in Detroit. And also, you look on the other side, Teddy Bridgewater, I can't tell you either way, because right now it looked like he was trending towards being out, right? PJ Walker was going to start. Well, now they're saying he might play. It's going to be a true game time decision where they're going to test it out and see what happens. I mean, is it best to just avoid this whole game in fantasy?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think Marvin Jones is an okay play because Stafford, he's a gamer. It doesn't matter, right? You could probably chop off his thumb and he'll still figure out a way to get it done because that guy's a gamer. As somebody who has Christian McCaffrey in 2 leagues, I'm going to be really, really, really upset with the Panthers if they let Teddy Bridgewater go out there with a knee injury because they've been so cautious with Christian McCaffrey, and then you're going to let your quarterback go out there with a bad knee in a lost season. Like, I'm going to be very upset if they let. My feeling is Bridgewater will not play. They're like the Packers. They're very cautious with injuries in their players. So my guess is I'm sure Bridgewater wants to play. I'm sure Bridgewater thinks he can play, just like I'm sure McCaffrey wants to play and thinks he can play. But they're going to say, hey, look, sit out a week. It's not a big deal. It's not like we're going to make the playoffs. Rest the knee. Let's try again next week.
Yeah, they've got a little bit more invested financially in Christian McCaffrey than they do with Bridgewater. So that makes sense. And, of course, they want to save him for down the stretch. But, I just – you would think, given the way that the Lions are struggling with their offense and then, of course, their injuries, that maybe they don't need Bridgewater. They can get by without him this week, but maybe that shows they don't really have any faith in Phillip Walker. And then who else is out? Let's talk about this. That we could spend, so much time talking about the whole Saints thing. Okay, so Jameis Winston is out of the starting lineup. Taysom Hill is in. I'm not going to ask what you think about that because you can just go to Twitter and get a million different opinions on that. It's surprising. Let's put it that way. But let me just ask you this. Taysom Hill at quarterback. I know if he's a tight end, obviously, then you start him. But Taysom Hill at quarterback, I mean, how much do you think he's really going to do?
I don't want to get too crazy here. So I'm going to say he's a top 12 quarterback this week. I really want to say he's top 10. And here's why.
Wow.
Look, a lot of people underestimate the power of rushing for a quarterback. Look at Kyler Murray. Look at Lamar Jackson last year. Taysom Hill over his last 3 games, 35 rush yards, 54 rush yards, 45 rush yards, and he plays 10 snaps a game? Now he's going to play every single snap. Do you think Sean Payton is going to have Taysom Hill drop back 30, 40 times? No. He's going to hand the ball off to Kamara. He's going to hand the ball off to Murray. He's going to dump the ball off to Kamara, and he's going to run, right? He legitimately, I don't see, to me, this is an easy 100-yard rushing game for Taysom Hill. I mean, if he's getting 50-plus yards on 10 snaps, what is he going to do on 40-plus snaps, right? So you're talking about a 10-point floor just right there. That's assuming he doesn't rush in a touchdown, which now gives you a 16-point floor. And if you're worried about him throwing the ball, which I understand, he's playing against Atlanta. It's one of the softest defenses you can get. So you got to think he's going to be somewhat effective even through the air. So I don't want to get crazy here and say top 5 or top 10. I'm just going to say top 12 QB. I actually, as somebody who has Josh Allen on a bye this week and originally picked up Winston, I'm actually more excited for Taysom Hill because give me those 100-plus rushing yards and the possibility of a rushing touchdown. I really don't even care what he does through the air that much.
Yeah, well, it won't be that much through the air. I don't think, like you said, he's going to pass it less than 20 times for sure. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, maybe being kind of contrarian just because I know the hype is getting so much here. But I kind of see it the other way. I think that, passing, what he's going to do is going to be very minimal, right? But this Atlanta defense is super soft, obviously one of the worst. I think they allow the second most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. Okay, but he's not I mean, he's a quarterback, but he's not a true quarterback. So I would have liked Jameis Winston in there better, slinging it down the field. But Sean Payton doesn't want that, right? So why is he starting Hill over Winston? Unless it's a financial reason, which they've said, might be on Twitter, which it would be really sad. But anyways, if the case is he thinks he's the guy who's going to help them win, it means he's caring about what ball control, which means they're going to run it a million times. I really think it's going to be a Latavius Murray game. I think they're going to try to pound the ball. It's going to be Kamara getting about 15 dump offs and screens. It's going to be Hill running it. It's going to be mixing in the pass. So I think really we're going to see the running backs dominate this game. And I think Hill is obviously startable, but I just don't think he's going to personally get as many touches as everybody else thinks he will. But of course, we have no idea what Sean Payton has in mind. So we'll see what happens. But
let's go back to that really quick, what you just said, because I agree with you. But if the game plan is run the ball, dump offs to Kamara, if Taysom Hill runs the ball 10 times, do you think there's a realistic possibility Taysom Hill could run the ball 10 times?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Taysom Hill gets 50 yards on 5 runs, on 4 runs, right? Because he has the advantage of being the quarterback because the defense can't just sit there and be like, oh, he's going to he might hand the ball to Murray. He might hand the ball off to Kamara, or he might run, right? It's kind of like what we see with Lamar Jackson. It's what we see with Kyler Murray. It's an advantage for the quarterback to run over a running back. So if he runs the ball 10, 12 times, that's 100 yards in my mind. So again, you're getting that 10-point floor. If one of those dump offs to Kamara goes in for a score, boom, he hits. Maybe I'm too high on him. We'll find out. Maybe at the end of the day, I'm going to be like this. We'll see.
Well, we'll see. But, you and everybody else, everyone who has him is starting him, obviously. So, the thing is, I don't know. I guess to me, it's the efficiency. That's it. If he does run the ball 10 times, how much is he going to get? It's different when you come in. And this is why I talk about like running backs who have limited touches. And you say, oh, the guy gets 6 yards every time he carries the ball. Why doesn't he play more? Well, if he carried the ball 20 plus times, he wouldn't average 6 yards per carry, right? That would be, you know what I mean? So I feel like when he comes in as one of those packages and you don't know if he's going to run it or pass it or throw it, whatever, it'd be the receiver. It's different. But when he's the quarterback, I think they're going to try to limit how much he runs because they actually need him now. Like he's not just a gimmick. He's like the quarterback. And if he does get hurt, well, then it's Jameis Winston or bust. And then the defense is going to know it's coming, right? They know, okay, this guy's the quarterback. He's going to run it half the time. We're going to have a spy on him. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Maybe I'm underestimating him, but it'll be interesting for sure. But we'll see. We've already talked 10 minutes about Hill, and we need to move on. Who's out? Christian McCaffrey, of course. You already know he's still out. Joe Mixon. Speaking of face palms, I saw you tweeted, Chris. You said, yeah, it's not a serious injury with Joe Mixon, and now he's on IR, not just out. So hopefully you've got some Geo, and then I don't even know if there's a backup. I'm not adding Samaje Perine anywhere, but Mixon is out, not just for this week, but maybe the rest of the season at this point, right?
Yeah, that was crazy. There was a report that was like, oh, Joe Mixon's injury is minor. And I tweeted out, like, what kind of minor injury keeps you out for 5 weeks? And then literally the next day, okay, Joe Mixon's on IR. It's like, oh, okay, not a minor injury. But, yeah, definitely if you have Gio, I mean, I had Mixon, I said in the running back start sit that I also like Gio if Mixon is out. I like Gio in this matchup. Washington's defense has not been that strong lately. Don't worry about last week against Pittsburgh. Gio should bounce back. I think he's a high-end RB2 this week.
Yeah, I remember Pittsburgh, one of the best run defenses in the league. Washington, at one point, we thought had a really good front seven. They're slipping a little lately, but anyways, so keep Gio in your lineups. And then we talked about Galladay being out, Swift out, Amendola out. Get your Lions out, except for maybe Marvin Jones. I know some people like Marvin Hall. I'm not quite there yet. And then Sammy Watkins, no surprises, also out. McCole Hardman is in, but keep in mind, he was on the COVID list. He hasn't barely even seen the field for 2 weeks now because they were off. So I kind of like in this matchup, honestly, if you're going to start a chief receiver besides, their main guy, is Demarcus Robinson. A sneaky name, maybe throw in there in deep leagues or a GPP. I like him. So I think that does, unless there's any other last minute additions. Guys we did not mention. Adam Humphries, if you carry, is not going to play. Maybe that helps you put Corey Davis in your lineup, but probably not against the Ravens. Anybody else?
No, I haven't seen anything come through, so I think we got it all.
All right, so that means it's time for some start sit questions. We've got a bunch again. If you have a question right now, anything you want answered, any position, hit us up right now. Leave a comment there, and we will get to it. All right, let's start it off.
All right, guys. Good morning. Remember, on your questions, please try to specify. Well, don't try. Do specify the scoring format: PPR, half PPR, non-PPR, because it really makes a difference on some of these close decisions. So let's start with Scar17S asks, and this is PPR. Good morning. Marvin Jones, Michael Thomas, James Robinson. He's got a bench one. So start two of those guys in PPR.
Wow. Here we are, Marvin Jones or Michael Thomas. And that's a legit question. So every Lion is injured except for Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones has been coming on. Got to give him credit because the beginning of the year when Golladay was out, Jones was doing nothing. He basically was droppable. And now he's actually starting to come on quite a bit. So I'm going to move him up a little bit, but I'm still worried that Stafford's thumb, maybe not 100%. Carolina's defense was really good against the pass, but they now are also kind of reversing course and they've been slipping lately. I would honestly find it really hard to bench Michael Thomas, even with Taysom Hill at quarterback. But again, it's what we just talked about, right? How much do you think he's going to pass the ball? How much of those passes are going to go actually to wide receivers? And how productive do you think Thomas will be? I still have Thomas ranked higher. Maybe I shouldn't though. So I would say probably Jones. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a tough matchup, but you got to start James Robinson.
Oh,
I think I would start Jones. I'm just terrified, like you said, that it's just that he's going to throw the ball less than 20 times, and 10 of those are going to be dump offs to Kamara and Murray, right? And maybe like a couple of like short ones to Jared Cook. I mean, maybe Michael Thomas catches a couple short passes, but man, I'm nervous for sure. So I think I might go Jones, and I mean, I don't feel good about it either way though.
Yeah, and it's really close because just since we found out that Hill's going to be the quarterback instead of Winston. If Winston was a quarterback, I love Michael Thomas. I probably would have had him a top 10, maybe. I don't know. I don't think maybe not that high, but top 15 at least. And now moving him down, I got him outside the top 20. I just don't have Jones, I guess, high enough to surpass him. But I wouldn't be surprised if Jones outproduces him, honestly.
Yeah. All right. Salim Keshwani. Hopefully I pronounced that right. If not, I apologize. T. Chark, Tyler Boyd, your boy Ahmed, or Robert Woods in PPR. Start three of those. So oh wait, T. Chark. So I guess sorry, T. Higgins, Chark. So Higgins, Chark, Boyd, Ahmed, or Woods. Start three in PPR. I guess position doesn't matter.
Okay, so we got some pretty good options there at flex. I love me some Ahmed this week. Not just the Dolphins thing, but I mean, you see how much opportunity he's getting, and it's a good matchup. So I'm keeping him in my lineup. Yeah. Let's do this. Let's each chop one, right? There's 5 guys there. We got to drop 2 of them. We got to keep 3. Is that right?
Yes.
So, who would be your sit there? I'm keeping
Chark. I gotta sit.
Yeah.
As long as Luton's the quarterback, I can't start Chark. I mean, I know he can always have one big play, but man, if he doesn't, you're getting almost nothing. So Chark would definitely be a sit for me.
Honestly, I have Woods right down there kind of with him. I definitely would start Higgins, I would say. He's a strong start. He's almost an every week must start at this point, even though he's more boom bust each week. The way he's coming through as far as fantasy points, yeah, I would start Higgins. I would say probably Woods based on the matchup would be my other sit.
Yeah, I think I would go with the 2 Cincy receivers and Ahmed. So I agree with you. Higgins, Boyd, and Ahmed. Out of that
I think, and maybe I'm wrong here, I think the Rams Bucks matchup is going to be just a defensive slugfest. It's going to be disappointing. We think all these big names, these great receivers, and all these, this offensive potential, it's going to kind of go to waste because you have such good defenses, and I've talked about Brady and the Bucks at home have not been doing so well this year. So,
yeah. All right. Corey Spencer asks, J-Rob, McKissick, or Cup? I guess pick one. I don't know if it's, we'll just assume PPR, I guess.
We're talking James Robinson.
I think. Go ahead.
No, if we're talking about James Robinson, I mean, he's a must start, right? Even
Yeah,
against
that's what I was
Pittsburgh.
gonna say. I don't think it matters the scoring. I know it's a tough matchup, but dude, he's getting every running back touch in that backfield. So he's locked into 15 plus touches every week. He catches enough passes out of the backfield. You got to start him even in a tough matchup.
And I'll say, neither of us, we will tell everybody, don't buy into those start your studs, every week, no matter what. No, you play it based on what makes the most sense in matchups. But there's also certain players and situations and maybe even certain defenses that you don't worry too much. You don't outsmart yourself and say, well, it's Pittsburgh. I got to, keep him benched. Yeah, Pittsburgh statistically second toughest against running backs, but Robinson will get enough volume. And there have been some teams that have been productive against them in the running game. You saw Baltimore just a couple of weeks ago, ran all over them. So, in fact, 3 straight weeks, they've given up over 100 yards to the running back position. So maybe not as good as they were beginning of the year.
All right, Heath Johnson, who's here every Sunday morning. Thanks for supporting us, Heath. Appreciate it. Who are my 3 starting receivers going to be? Well, I don't know yet. Higgins, A.J. Brown, Cooper, Lamb, or Cooks. Pick 3 of those.
All right, there we go. I was waiting for some Cowboys questions. So A.J. Brown is a tough one here because I'm really down on Tannehill this week. Of course, you don't want any piece of him, but Brown is just one of those guys you hate to bench. And you saw, of course, last week, massively disappointing, but even in a tough matchup, right, he can take one to the house. And we've seen him do that too, where he gets shut out and in the fourth quarter, he makes a big play. So I can never really have Brown, outside my top 20. So I kind of feel like even in this matchup, we have to keep him, right?
I agree. Brown's one of those guys that, yeah, we've seen it in tough matchups this year. He can still make it happen. I know he only had 1 catch last week, so it's easy to freak out. But, I a lot of times like guys coming off games like that because good players don't put up 2 games in a row like that very often. More often than not, they come back with a strong performance the next week. So I like A.J. Brown this week, even if it is a tough matchup. So I agree. You gotta play Brown, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's tough there. Now, as far as it's tough to keep him out of your lineup, is what I'm saying. And in Baltimore, again, one of those defenses that's really good against the pass overall, but they do have games where they give up. This isn't going to be one of those games. Like I said, I hate Tannehill this week. I have him, as a don't even think about. But Brown is one of those guys. They don't have a shutdown corner per se, right? Some one guy who's going to just completely lock him out, like Jalen Ramsey might for Robert Woods. And then as far as Cooper versus Lamb, I'm still leaning Cooper over Lamb. I mean, because you think he's still the number 1 receiver there, right?
Yeah, and he was. If you look back in the games with Dalton, he still was getting more targets than Lamb or Gallup. So yeah, I agree. Brown and Cooper are in for sure. So now it comes between Higgins, Lamb, or Cooks.
And I'm going to Higgins because, like I said, he's bordering on must-start territory every week, and this is a pretty good matchup. So for me, out of those guys, it's close. I mean, they're all startable. I know Cooks, you think you're worried about the Patriots, but they're giving up actually the most yards per target to receivers. Gilmore hasn't been 100%. Cooks is going to be lined up all over the field. So there's potential for Cooks, but I wouldn't start him over Higgins.
No, and Gilmore is playing this week. Not sure if he's going to shadow anybody or if he'll just be out there. I'm not sure, but I agree. I think you got to play Higgins. But again, you have 5. This is this is when fantasy football isn't fun because you have 5 good options, and if the 2 that you don't start go off on your bench, you're gonna, be hating life. So again.
And this is where it also kind of depends. What do you need, right? If are you trying to look for the guys with the biggest upside, or are you looking for the guys that you want to avoid a 0, potential disaster from? Like, who's most likely to tank this week? To me, it's probably Cooks and then Lamb, right? So those are the guys I would avoid, and who has the biggest upside. Well, it could also be Cooks, but again, that's still a little iffy. But he's also a guy who's been targeted a ton and can make a big play. So. Again, it just depends what you're shooting for.
Yeah. All right. Steven Drakes needs 2 and a flex in full PPR. Kareem Hunt, Kalen Ballage, James Robinson, and Cooper Kupp. I mean, I already know the 3 I'm picking. Who are you picking? How about who's the one you're not playing? We'll just make it easy. Who's the one you're not playing out of that?
We already talked about Robinson, right? You're starting Robinson. And then Balaj, I mean, yeah, I like Balaj as a top 20 running back this week, but he's still barely inside the top 20 for me. So that's pretty iffy. And then Cooper Kupp, was one of them?
Yeah, Cooper Kupp, Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I know you got to start Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely start Hunt. You definitely, I want to say definitely. Okay, so we're just picking one that we don't start.
Yeah, so we know. Okay, so I agree with you. Hunt, Robinson must starts. So it's between Balaj and Kupp, full PPR.
And yeah, I'd still probably have to stick with Kupp, even though I just said I hate that matchup. But Balaj, I mean, well, he's going against the Jets. So again, this is kind of that floor ceiling for me. I think Kupp is more likely to give you a few points and not tank. But I mean, can you really tank against the Jets?
I know. I'm going Balaj here. I'm going the 3 running backs, honestly. The Rams just aren't passing that much. They want to run the ball. I know it's Tampa. It's a tough run defense, but like you said, I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. They didn't even throw the ball that much against Seattle, so they'll find a way to run the ball.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, really, I'm trying to get myself out of the conventional wisdom of Kupp is a really good player, and Kalen Balaj was just signed off the practice squad a couple weeks ago, but I mean, this is where again you said, well, how studly has Cooper Kupp really been this year? He really hasn't, right? He hasn't been a dominant every week must start guy. So, and I don't subscribe to the theory, well, you always start a running back over a wide receiver, even if it's not PPR. No, it's just that Kupp just hasn't come through with monster games lately, like you said. So, yeah, it would be tough to do, but probably Balaj has a higher upside.
All right, Estelle K. He has 2 questions. First, a tight end one, which you always love. Mark Andrews, Dallas Goedert, or Robert Tonyan?
Oh, well, that's definitely Andrews. He's one of those guys. There's very few tight ends who are considered tier 1 tight ends, and he's one of them. So you start Andrews regardless of matchup.
Yeah, and then for his wide receiver 3, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Reagor, Michael Pittman, Corey Davis, Keelan Cole. I think we both like Lamb out of that group, right?
Lamb, I kind of like Pittman because I know, yeah, you don't want to overreact to last week's 100-yard game, but I mean, he is going to be the most targeted receiver there in that group. And, Green Bay without Alexander, I think again, but they've been a little more susceptible to the pass. Is he going to have that same upside that he showed? Maybe not. Pittman is really solid play, but I do have Lamb higher. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. SS Saeed. Again, apologies if I mispronounce your name. Full PPR. I mean, this one, Deonte Johnson or Julio. It's Julio, right? He's top 5 every week.
Even with Ridley back, it doesn't matter.
If Julio's on the football field, he's in your lineup.
And I get, Deonte Johnson has been, he's a monster last week, and of course another great matchup. So, I mean, if you have to keep one of those guys on your bench, I'm sorry. I mean, that really sucks because, I mean, there's got to be somebody else you can bench, right? There's no way that you have 2 or 3 other receivers that are better than both of those, right?
Yeah. And then I assume Derrick Henry or Nyheim Hines. Like, you start Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is another one of those guys. You just always start Derrick Henry.
Yeah, there's no question there. If Derrick Henry, in fact, should have a monster week because Baltimore, hasn't been as tough on the run. This is going to be a Derrick Henry week. Like I said, the passing game I'm kind of out on, but yeah, Derrick Henry should have a monster week.
All right, Doom all caps. Should I start both Deonte Johnson and Juju? Yes. It's a standard league, but I think we've seen it. I have Big Ben as one of my top quarterbacks this week. He can support all these guys. Yeah, I think you can start both of them, and you should start.
We literally said, if you watch the wide receiver start sit episode a couple of days ago, I think one of us literally said, you start every Steelers receiver in this game if you can. James Washington, maybe not so much, but you start their top 3 guys. You have Eric Ebron, you start him unless you happen to have, a Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce or somebody else. Well, that's it pretty much for Darren Waller. You start everybody in this passing game this week. And by the way, Doom, if that's a reference to, of course, MF Doom, the rapper, pretty much my favorite of all time.
I'm trying to spell
the man's name.
I'm trying to look at his icon here. I can't. I thought that too. I thought about that too. I can't tell, but yeah. Let us know.
Hit us up there, and tell us your favorite MF Doom song.
All right, Joey Cardinaghi. Again, apologies if I mispronounce your name. Pick one: Jefferson, Cooper, or Fulgham.
Okay, that's clearly not Fulgham for me. I got him way down, and not just anything with him. I've been saying this for a couple weeks now. Rager's the number one receiver there. This is not a good matchup. Cleveland's defense has been really good the last couple of weeks. They're slowing the game down. He might get Denzel Award. There's a lot of reasons to have nothing to do with Fulgham this week. So,
yeah.
No. And then you're between it's Cooper and
Justin Jefferson.
Jefferson. I mean, Jefferson is hard to keep out of your lineup any given week too. And this matchup kind of begs to start him. So, but then again, you say, well, look at the other side. Cooper, has even better matchup on the other. But the way they're playing, I would say you got to be Jefferson.
Ooh, I do like Jefferson a lot this week. I mean, I had him as a must-start wide receiver. I still think I have to play Cooper though, because this just could be like one of those Dalvin Cook runs the ball a bunch games and he only gets 3 or 4 targets. Now I know Jefferson could do a lot with 3 or 4 targets, but Cooper is probably looking at 8 to 10 targets. I think I have to play Cooper, even though I do like Jefferson a lot this week too.
And again, both good choices, but I have, looking right now, I got Cooper as a top 15 receiver. I have Jefferson as a top 10 receiver. So it's
all right.
Both good options.
Well, I hope you're right, because I'm rolling out Justin Jefferson in one league. So I hope you're right. Isaiah Entertainment, Robbie Anderson or Chase Claypool? I mean, I think it's Chase Claypool, right?
This week it's Chase Claypool. I mean, typically you think Anderson, but especially remember Bridgewater. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? We have no idea. And then I know it's funny. I saw Howard Bender tweet this. Hey guys, did you know Robbie Anderson played at Temple with Phillip Walker, and who was the head coach there? It was Matt Rule. You got this whole 3 degrees of Temple connection, but that doesn't mean you wouldn't necessarily start Robbie Anderson, because Phillip Walker is not a good quarterback compared to Teddy Bridgewater. So basically, even though Robbie Anderson's tempting, you have to start Claypool in this matchup.
Yeah, and then Nick Chubb or James Robinson. That's a close one. That's a close one.
Wow. I mean, you're doing pretty well running back at this stage of the season. If you got to choose, but to me, it's almost always going to be Chubb. But in this, with the matchup being tougher for Robinson, it's definitely Chubb.
Yeah, I agree. And I just got notification from Ian Rappaport. Well, I didn't get it. It just came through. It's not like he texted me. Ian Rappaport texted me directly before he tweets anything, by the way. Sonny Michel will not play today. So you can feel confident about Damian Harris again, if you weren't already. If you weren't already.
I do.
All right, Gus. By the way, Gus, another big supporter. Appreciate you, Gus.
Oh, yeah.
Flex one of these guys in PPR. Kupp, Ahmed, or Jakeem Grant. I think we both are in agreement here, but let's hear it.
Yeah, I get Jakeem Grant. He's a nice pickup. Now it looks like he's going to be the slot guy in Miami, but you're not starting him this week unless you really don't have to. And you do have better options there, obviously. So I'm going Ahmed.
Yeah, I agree. 87. Rojo, Gio, or Balaj, full PPR.
That's a good one. Now that you can have a healthy debate about that one. And I wrote a little bit about Rojo this week. He's been a roller coaster. Talk about fantasy points per game. He's up there. He's like the RB 18. But what that really means is he's had 3 huge monster games where he was a top 5 running back. And then he's had 4 games where he did absolutely nothing and barely any in between. Okay, so is he going to have a monster game or is he going to do nothing this week? What's more likely to you, Chris?
Do nothing.
That's what I'm saying. And I don't want it to be just me, right? Because I know I've been probably too down on Rojo this year, and he's proved me wrong a couple of times, especially last week. But look at the matchup. I already talked about it. This is the best defense in the league, arguably, with the Colts right up there. But I mean, this is not going to be a game where he gets big chunks of yardage. So I'm out on Rojo. Balaj has a great matchup, right? I mean, it doesn't get much better than going against the Jets. So that's tempting there. And then our third option is
Gio Bernard.
Last week went against Pittsburgh. We talked about that. Gio this week. I had him right there, kind of right next to Balaj. Honestly, this is kind of 50-50 for me. I might lean Gio, though, just because I think he'll get more of the touches.
Yeah, I like Gio a little more I mean, I know Balaj has looked good the last 2 weeks, but we've seen Gio look good for years when Mixon or before Mixon, Jeremy Hill wasn't in the lineup. We've seen Gio do it, so we know Gio can do it. I'm still a little skeptical about Balaj, even though I am starting him in one league. I would prefer to start Gio, but it is close.
It's really close. Like I said, I mean, and that's why you guys see me looking. I'm looking at my rankings because I try to update them throughout the week. I got them on Fantasy Pros, part of that consensus expert rankings. I have it 19 and 20. All right. I have Gio 19 and I have Balaj 20. So really when I say it's a coin flip, it kind of is because Balaj clearly has the better matchup. But it's not like Washington has been, shutting people down on defense. So I don't think you worry about that. And like I said, so it's track record, right? Who's got the track record? Obviously it's Gio. Who's going to get more touches? Probably Gio, because they don't really have anybody else that they give the ball to. And I don't think the Chargers are going to need to pass a whole lot on this game. So you like Balaj, but I think also, let me just mention this. I've seen some folks say that Cincinnati, Washington, that could be a sneaky high scoring game, right? You think two bad teams going at it. And we've seen Alex Smith, they're going to let him throw the ball 50 times. And we know Joe Burrow is going to throw the ball 50 times no matter what. So there could be a lot of fantasy gold in this game. So I would still lean a little bit towards Gio.
Yeah. All right. Corey Spencer, James Robinson. Well, I mean, we've kind of answered this question a few times today. I know we're getting a lot of James Robinson questions, I guess, because of the matchup, but James Robinson, McKissick, or Kupp at flex in full PPR. We're both in agreement. James Robinson, right?
Yeah. Don't let the matchup scare you too much. Because again, look at on paper. Yeah. They're the second toughest run defense, but look the last 3 weeks, not as much.
Yeah. All right. Lydia Chaj. Again, apologies if I mispronounce your name. Ooh, this is interesting. DJ Moore or Robert Woods?
Man, I mean, down on both those guys this particular week. DJ Moore has been tough to trust. It is, I mean, to me, it's kind of dependent on the Bridgewater thing, right? If Bridgewater plays, then you could go with Moore, but I mean, are we going to know that until it's too late? So the safe thing to do would probably stick with Woods, even though I really don't like him this week.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's got to be Robert Woods, even though I don't like him as well this week.
Yeah, Moore has still been the number 2 guy behind Anderson, and then Curtis Samuel had been coming on. So, of course, Curtis Samuel did absolutely nothing last week when everybody was on him. So I'd still say it's too tough to trust Moore, especially even though the matchup looks great. There's so many injuries that game, and with Bridgewater situation. Yeah. So, all right, what do we got next?
All right. You're going to have to carry this one. I got to step away just for a quick minute or two here. So I'm going to let you carry this one, but you got a lot of options. So there should be a lot for you to talk about. Unfortunately, it's a standard league question. So I apologize for that, but you got to bench 2 between Juju, Deonte Johnson. This is probably going to be an easy one actually, but you can explain why. Juju, Deonte Johnson, Robert Woods, DJ Chark, Jacoby Myers. Well, you got to bench 2 of those guys. So Juju, Johnson, Woods, Chark, Myers. I'm pretty sure I know who you're going to bench, but
Juju, Deontay, before you go, Jacoby Myers, Chark, and what was the 5th one? Okay. All right.
Woods. Sorry, I was muted. Woods. So Juju, Johnson, Woods, Chark, Myers.
Bench 2. Okay.
Bench 2 in standard.
Okay. So let's talk about a lot to digest there. Next week, just by the way, I'm going to bring a notepad for these questions that have like 5 or 6 guys and try to keep them all in here and remember where I have them. Okay. So we talked about Pittsburgh. Do you want to start the receivers that you have again? Yes. Okay. So let's just get that out of the way. And even besides the fact you might be worried about, having guys compete against each other for targets, you don't worry about that in a game where you think it's going to be high scoring, especially you really don't know who's going to lead the way. Deonte Johnson has been the leading target getter for Pittsburgh the last couple of weeks, whereas before it was Juju the last couple of weeks before that. If Johnson is healthy, you start him, right? If Juju is doing what he's been doing, you start him against Jacksonville. That's kind of a no doubter. Now, let's go to the standard part of this. Is Juju the kind of guy who could come up with, 7 or 8 catches? and then it's 64 yards and no touchdowns. So he really doesn't do much for you in standard because that's 6 points, right? It's not that high volume that's going to really help you in a PPR league. But Juju, does he have a good chance to get a touchdown against Jacksonville? Yeah, he does actually. And can you guarantee he's going to get the red zone work as opposed to Deonte Johnson? They both have a good chance to score. Okay, so I still start both of them just because you don't know which one could have an explosive game. Talked about Woods, down on him, and especially in a standard league, he's got to be one of those guys that I don't start out of that group at least. Jacoby Myers is interesting because, again, he's kind of made his made his way in fantasy so far on target volume and a lot of receptions. And he's been, of course, the wide receiver 1 for New England. But what is he not doing? He's not scoring touchdowns really so much. He's got one. I know he threw for a touchdown, but he's really not getting the end zone. That's not going to change because Damian Harris is running the ball so well. Cam Newton, of course, always still some touchdowns. Rex Burkhead is scoring more touchdowns. So that's why Myers is kind of low there. He's had one monster game in terms of yardage. The rest of them have been good, but not great. So that's why Myers is kind of a tough start, even though the matchup is actually kind of good. It looks good, but Bradley Roby, Chris, I know you're a fan of Bradley Roby, actually a really good corner, might shadow Myers in this game. So to me, I'm sitting Myers and I'm sitting Woods. Chark is kind of on the fence there, right? But I think I like the chances of him getting the end zone actually better than those other two guys, Woods and Myers. So yeah, that's where I would go.
That's interesting. I mean, Juju and Johnson are must starts, of course. Yeah. I'm so down on Chark with Luton. Like,
he did have that monster first game. I know Luton's not going to be the answer to their problems, but just the target volume he's getting. And again, who do you think has a better chance to score a touchdown? Is it Chark or is it Jacoby Myers?
Well, between those two, Chark. But what about Robert Woods? They give him those end arounds. He might get like a carry, like a little shovel pass near the goal line. They use him in different ways, but
true.
Yeah, it's close there. So
yeah.
And honestly, I haven't played in standard scoring leagues in so long. It's hard for me to gauge that. Everything in my mind is like who catches more passes and gets more yards. And touchdowns are touchdowns are big, but they're kind of more secondary. So
yeah, and so in a standard league, you're not looking necessarily for receptions, but so much who has a better chance for a touchdown, but also or a big game. You know, we've seen Chark at least has had a big game with Luton. Myers hasn't really had, other than that one big game. He's had a big game in PPR because of his reception volume. But yeah, I personally I'd go with Chark.
Okay. And by the way, guys, just got some breaking news. As suspected, the Panthers are extremely cautious with their injured players. Teddy Bridgewater went out there and threw before the game, and they decided not only is PJ Walker going to be the starter, but Teddy Bridgewater is not even active, which is surprising that he's not even active. So I got to downgrade. I'm sorry, I got to downgrade all Carolina pass catchers now. It could be good. It could be really good for Mike Davis out of the backfield, but I got to downgrade like Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore. I got to downgrade them.
Yeah, and so to answer that previous question with DJ Moore, that you don't start him in this case. Again, and Walker's not a bad quarterback. We watched him right in the XFL. Looks hey, that counts for something.
There's a little different level between the NFL and the XFL, though. I mean, look, I'm rooting for him because, like you said, we did watch him. I'm rooting for him. I want him to succeed, just like I wanted Garrett Gilbert to succeed, AAF MVP if they would have finished. But at the same time, there's a reason why he's in the XFL. There's a reason why Garrett Gilbert was in the AAF, right? And not a starting quarterback in the NFL. There's a reason. There's a huge, huge talent difference.
There might be a reason, yeah.
I'm rooting for him, but at the same time, you got to be worried if you have any Carolina pass catchers.
Yeah, and you got to think it's, like I said, this is just going to be a really ugly, low-scoring game. It should be, at least.
Yeah. All right. Chapstick 1972. Did they have Chapstick back in 1972? It's
I would think so.
I don't know why I just thought that. All right.
We're not quite that old, so I can't vouch for that one, but no, I would think so.
Thielen, Crowder, or Ridley, pick two in PPR.
Thielen, pick two. Well,
Yes, PPR.
Ridley is tough because he's coming back. He is going to play. And we've seen he's played and done nothing because of that injury. I think the fact that they took him completely off of injury designation makes me think that he should be good enough to go, that they're going to give him the ball, and it's a nice matchup with New Orleans. So I probably would have to keep Ridley in there, right? Just because the upside is so great.
Oh yeah, Ridley's a must start this week. Must start.
Yeah. Since he's not questionable heading into today, and he's not on game time or anything. So and then you got what, Thielen. Man, Thielen has been really
Thielen or Crowder PPR.
I like Crowder. I mean, you always got to like Crowder, but yeah, you have to start Thielen in this matchup with Dallas. So I got Thielen the highest, and even though I do like Crowder, I technically have Crowder the lowest.
Yeah, I think it's Ridley and Thielen. David Waxman, Claypool or Woods? I think we're both in agreement here.
Claypool.
Start the Steeler wide receivers this week. He also has a trade question. Miles Sanders and James Robinson for the Chiefs wide receiver and Todd Gurley.
Interesting. So you're getting a receiver. You're dealing two running backs away. Is that it?
Yeah, you're dealing Sanders and Robinson, so two top 10 running backs for a top 5 wide receiver and Gurley, wherever you rank him. I don't think I'd make that move unless you're like, you're trading, like, unless you have like 2 other really stud running backs, which I don't see how you could if you have those guys. I don't make that move because I think you're just going to be too weak at running back.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're doing that, it would have to be because you need a receiver, right? Or maybe you're stacked at. You can never be too stacked at running back this year, especially. Are you kidding? So Todd Gurley, and I did my rest of the season top 10 running backs. Didn't quite have Gurley in there. I did have Robinson, and Sanders should be. If he's healthy, which he is, I would keep those 2 guys. I would keep those 2 running backs.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see. Catch 23 is Sonny Michel playing today? No, he's not active. Justin Martin, hearing that Kerryon Johnson is going to split carries with AP. Struggling in running back. Do I start Kerryon or Jamal Williams? You were definitely struggling in running back. I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that.
Jamal Williams, terrible matchup against the Colts. But are you really starting Kerryon Johnson ever? That's the thing. I can't bring myself to start a Lions running back, and it took me until last week to come around on DeAndre Swift, just because he should have been starting the whole year, but that's the whole point, right? What are they doing? Waiting, and then now, of course, as soon as he looks like he's going to break out, then he doesn't play today. So, yeah, you can believe what he says, that Kerryon Johnson is going to see so much volume. This is going to be a really just ugly game, I think. To me, I can't start Kerryon Johnson, even though I really don't want to start Jamal Williams. I would still prefer him. Yeah,
at least Jamal Williams, he's going to get carries and he's going to get some receptions. So at least he's getting that. Yeah, tough spot though. Sorry to hear that. Hopefully it works out for you. Cy Gatam, again, apologies if I mispronounce. Austin Hooper or Noah Fant. Concerned about rain. Don't worry about rain. It's the wind that we've seen the last couple of weeks that you got to worry about, which I haven't heard any issues with that. So we should be good to go. I think we're both are going to pick Hooper here, right?
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the weather so much. I'm concerned about Baker Mayfield being Baker Mayfield in the passing game of Cleveland's.
Yes.
But yeah, Hooper, like I said, I'm out on Fant this week because tough matchup. He's been questionable all week. You got to stick with Hooper.
All right. Mac Bank, Lamb or Hollywood as a flex in half PPR?
Okay, so do you like to roll the dice here? I have Marquise Brown as a boom this week. I think this is the week where he finally shows back up and makes a big play. And of course, he could very well just do nothing. So, I mean, if you feel pretty good that you can take the risk there, and it's not even that risky because Marquise Brown hasn't done anything the last couple of weeks, but he got 5 and 7 targets. So he just needs to make that big play, right? Or get in the end zone. This could be the week he does it. So even though Lamb is the smarter play, man, if you're okay taking a chance, I don't mind Hollywood this week.
I got to roll with Lamb. I've been out on Hollywood since before the draft. I don't understand the fascination with Hollywood Brown. He's just a burner. And I'm sorry, but Lamar Jackson just hasn't been as good on the deep balls this year. So sure, maybe they connect this week, but let's say he connects for 150-yard touchdown. Okay, you got 12 points. Can't CeeDee Lamb get you 12 points without the risk? he might do it over 5 or 6 catches, but can he get you the same number of points without the risk? It's not like Marquise Brown is going to catch 2 bombs for 2 touchdowns. I mean, he could. Now that I said that, he will, and everybody's going to
He could.
But I mean, really, what is the ceiling with Marquise Brown? 1 long touchdown? That's like the ceiling. I'm out. He doesn't even have a huge ceiling.
This is true. And I'm saying this. I do have Lamb ranked higher. I'm not saying that Marquise Brown is going to score more points, but I'm just saying if you're looking for the potential for a big game, I mean, I think he could have that, but is this sounding too much like the hope is not a winning strategy thing? Is that what it is?
Yes, way too much like hope. All right. This is an interesting one. Anton Montes, James Conner or Gio full PPR?
Oh man, James Conner, what he keeps doing to us. Just smashed spots the last 2 weeks and he's done nothing. And again, I kind of feel like we talked about this with the wide receiver one. Well, actually, I think we talked about the running back one too. Is Conner? He should have a great game against Jacksonville, but they're just going to pass the ball 50 times again and at will. And you start your receivers, you'll be happy. You start Conner, you might be disappointed. But does he have more upside than Gio? Probably he still does, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I was reading a comment. You pick Gio or you pick Conner?
Well, I really don't want to pick Conner, but I feel like I have to just because I still think the upside is there, even though he's let us down the last couple of weeks, right? I think I still would go Conner and hate myself.
I see. This is one of those situations where we're in that time of the year where you got to ignore the name. Because I feel like people are like, you're going to start Conner on name value. But look at the last few weeks. He hasn't been getting the bell cow work like we saw early in the year. He's been splitting carries. He's been losing snaps. Gio isn't going to lose. I know last week P. Ryan got some touches, but that was in garbage time. Assuming this game is close, which it should be. I mean, I can't see the football team blowing them out. Gio's going to get the bulk of the carries. I got to go Gio.
Yeah, it's close either way. I mean, you could be right. Like I said, I almost hate to put Conner in there. I would still lean towards Conner just because I think better chances of this being a high-scoring game and maybe him finding some red zone work. But yeah, it's a toss-up here.
All right, I think I know who you're going to pick here, but Mac Bank asks, Logan Thomas or Jonnu Smith have PPR?
I've been on Logan Thomas all year, not stopping now. So finally a good matchup for him. I'm going to go definitely Logan Thomas.
Yep, I agree. AK, pick one. Damian Harris, Justin Jefferson, or Devonte Parker in PPR. I think maybe we'll see how high you really are on Damian Harris, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say Damian Harris, and then you said Justin Jefferson. I was like, oh, okay, you have to start Justin Jefferson. Okay. I mean, you can only pick one of those guys.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, definitely Justin Jefferson. Yeah. Doom all caps. It is a reference. Sorry. I know we talked, this is like 20 minutes ago, but we're finally getting to your reply. It is a reference to MF Doom. Props for knowing that. And his favorite song is America's Most Blunted.
That nice off Mad Villain. That's probably one of maybe his best album after Doomsday. I'll just so you know, quick trivia that nobody cares about. But okay, so I'm in right now as it stands. I'm in mostly, like what you call expert leagues or analyst leagues with a bunch of guys because, writing for Rotoballer and editing for Rotoballer and a bunch of leagues against sharks and guys like that. But my one public league that I've been in for, 15 something years, and 15 years ago, that was, the hotness was Doom on the underground. So my team name in the football and the baseball league, and then hockey, which I used to do, I don't do, but the same group of guys, we've been together for 15 plus years. And my team name is actually MF Doom, all caps. So I get mad love to the Doom fans out there.
All right. We get to have another Hollywood Brown discussion. Fabian Vasquez, Jacoby Myers, or Hollywood Brown?
Yeah, well, we already talked about those guys kind of at length when I was drawing out that answer with the 5 players. Myers, I'm on Myers. I like Myers, but not over Brown this week. particularly. It's close, but I'm going to give the edge to Brown.
What?
Although, wait, is this PPR, full PPR?
He didn't specify. Let's just assume PPR.
Well, okay. So if it's full PPR, Myers might have the higher floor. But again, that's just, what are you going for? The guy will get you, a few points, or Brown, who could go off. I'm kind of I have to stick to my guns because I'm stubborn that way. I kind of feel like it's a Marquise Brown week. My boy Kev knows what I'm talking about. He picked him as a boom this week. At Rotosurgeon. He's a great follow on Twitter, by the way. But I'm going to stick with Brown.
I don't know. I go Myers. He's going to get the targets. He's going to get, he's their number one receiver there. I got to go with Myers. All right. I'm not going to rant about Hollywood Brown again. Joe Van Corey asks, Ahmed, AJ Brown, or Mike Evans at flex PPR? Ooh.
I
think we're both out
one of those,
if possible, right? If possible, we're both out on Evans.
Right. So tough because I had Ahmed as a must start, but again, AJ Brown is just, you just can't sit a guy like AJ Brown, right?
Yeah, I think I do like Ahmed this week, but I think you got to start AJ Brown.
Yeah, because you'll hate yourself if he has an AJ Brown week and he's on your bench, and he could. Again, the Ravens it's a good defense, but it doesn't scare me away from starting players, especially top receiver. If it was a number 2 receiver type, then I'd say, yeah, you don't do it. But AJ Brown is just too tough to sit.
Yeah. All right. Brent plays Madden. Pick 2 for my running backs and 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex. Let's start with the running backs. His choices are Jacobs, Balaj, Gio, or Peterson.
Not Peterson.
No.
Because he's, for obvious reasons, he's on Detroit. Jacobs is a must start, right?
Yep.
And then Gio or Balaj, were the other 2?
Yes.
And that's, again, I had them right there. That's one of those kind of gut calls. I think you typically lean more towards Gio, right?
I do, because you never know. Balaj, they might give Joshua Kelly 10 touches this week. Who knows, right? It doesn't seem like it, but you never know. With Gio, he's going to get 85% of the touches with Mixon out, if not more. So I lean Gio.
Yeah, Balaj, you could think we don't want to get to the mistake of saying, oh, they're playing the Jets, they're going to score 50 points. That's not, the Jets suck and they will lose, but it doesn't mean they're giving up historically. Their defense isn't historically bad where they're giving up 50 points a game, right? It's not like every player is just crushing against them in fantasy. So Balaj is a safe start, but I still like Gio probably a little bit better.
Yeah, and then for his 2 wide receivers, Thielen, DJ Moore, Jacoby Myers, Cooper Kupp, or AJ Brown.
To me, that's pretty clear. We're picking 2 of those. It's Thielen and Brown.
Yes, correct. So then his flex would be Balaj. I'm going to eliminate Peterson. So his flex would be Balaj, DJ Moore, Jacoby Myers, or Cooper Kupp. To
me, and did we say PPR or not? Full PPR? We assume
didn't specify. This is why we need to know the scoring, because in certain formats it might make a difference. But
good to me, if it's not full PPR, then I would scratch Kupp. But so between Balaj, maybe, again, especially if it was a standard league, I would probably lean more towards Balaj. And then Myers was a possibility too, right?
Yeah, or DJ Moore.
Or DJ Moore, which we kind of you're probably pretty much out on him. Yeah.
Yeah, with PJ Walker. I mean, look, it could happen. He could go out there and play really well, but it's just too risky for me. I like Balaj as your flex here.
Yeah. Again, it kind of matters. I still don't know if I would go with Kupp over him, but probably Balaj.
Yeah. All right, Eric Rubio, Nyheim Hines, Adrian Peterson, Jamison Crowder, CeeDee Lamb. He needs 2 for his flex. Didn't specify scoring format.
To me, even regardless of format, I'd go with the receivers here. I'd go Lamb and Crowder.
Yeah, I agree. Although I could see, I'm kind of torn on Nyheim Hines. who's taking touches from Nyheim Hines at this point? Like, are Colts just committed to him?
Well, I mean, he definitely looks like their best running back on the team. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is actually getting worse every week, and it's probably just a confidence thing at this point. He's not injured. He's banged up. It's just he just looks lost, and maybe he'll bounce back huge and down the stretch, but right now he's not startable. Jordan Wilkins is just the same he's always been. He's a change of pace guy. He'll shine once in a while, but you cannot trust him. Hines is getting red zone work. Hines is going to be the pass catching back. Hines is going to play when the team is down. Could they be down to Green Bay? Absolutely, they could, but it's not a guarantee. So Hines is just kind of risky because he's, his fantasy output is volatile.
Yeah. All right, Andrew Stonebarger, Adrian Peterson, Ronald Jones. Oh man, Adrian Peterson, Ronald Jones, or Jonathan Taylor in full PPR. Oh. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Apologies that those are your choices. I can't start Taylor. I just can't. Ronald Jones has a terrible matchup, and Adrian Peterson actually on paper has a great matchup, but I would still start Ronald Jones over Adrian Peterson because you could see the carry on Johnson week. We could see that more likely what I think is going to happen is that the Lions, run the ball, 12 times for a total of 38 yards, and that's it.
Yeah, I think you still got to roll out Ronald Jones, but you're not going to feel whoever you start, you're not going to feel good about it unless they score a couple touchdowns and they're going to feel great about it. All right, Diju Guha. Again, apologies if I mispronounce your name. Start 2. Well, this is kind of interesting. Deonte Johnson, A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, or DJ Moore. So I think we can eliminate DJ Moore. So Deonte Johnson, A.J. Brown, or T. Higgins, start 2.
Deonte Johnson is a must start for me. So my dogs are going insane in the background. I don't know. The delivery man must be here. And then who is it, A.J. Brown or
T. Higgins?
T. Higgins. Oh, man. That's close. I really like Higgins this week. But again, can you bench A.J. Brown? I don't know. I'd still probably stick with Brown.
Yep, I agree. Deontay Johnson and A.J. Brown. All right, Cliff Darden, pick 3. Justin Jefferson, DJ Chark, Chris Godwin. That's our first Godwin question. And T. Higgins.
So we're just benching one of those guys.
Justin Jefferson's in for sure.
Justin Jefferson is a must start. Godwin, that's the interesting one, right? What do we expect of Chris Godwin? I have no idea what to expect from Tampa Bay's offense, period. And I know I've been saying for this past hour, I'm down on them this week, especially. But Godwin could still get you some points, right? He'll still get a couple of catches. He could get you a touchdown. Chark is the real volatile choice there, right? I mean, you kind of feel like he's all or nothing at this point. So Godwin is probably the safer pick between those two.
Yeah, I think Jefferson and Higgins are in for sure. And then it's between Chark and Godwin, and I'll still go Godwin. I know it's a tough matchup, but look, the Rams can't cover – for as good as that secondary is, they can't cover everybody, right? There's only one – they only have one Jalen Ramsey. They don't have 3 Jalen Ramseys. And we know that Brady trusts Godwin. He goes to him a lot. I'm not going to say I like Godwin. I'm not super high on him this week, but I like him more than Chark, who could do nothing. At least Godwin's going to do something.
Godwin, and it seems like you got a pretty solid squad there otherwise, right? Those other choices are pretty good. So for that third choice there, do you want the guy who's all or nothing, or do you want the one who you can feel decent about? And I would say, at this point, you could stick with Godwin.
Yeah, you have plenty of ceiling with Jefferson and Higgins. You don't need to chance the ceiling of Chark. Just take the safer floor with Godwin and get the ceiling from those other guys. All right, Diju Guha, another question. Start 3 in PPR: Gio, Gibson, Antonio Gibson, McKissick, or Higgins?
And by the way, big shout out to those who are still with us. We've been an hour already, and we're still getting questions. Keep them coming. I mean, hopefully we get to all of them if we can. But we're here to help. That's what we're here for. So big shout out to all those who've been watching this whole time. And if this helps, spread the word. Don't tell your league mates because that might help them. Tell everybody in your other leagues. Okay. So back to the question, Higgins. I heard Higgins in there. We got to start. I'm assuming this is T and not Rashard Higgins. So we got to start Higgins. Yeah.
You start him. So there's one. So now it's between Gio Bernard, Antonio Gibson, or J.D. McKissic.
I got to keep Gibson in there. I know he's not getting as many touches as we'd like, but he's still being pretty efficient. And I'd love to see that he's getting all the goal line work. McKissic kind of gives you that floor in PPR, but he's not scoring any touchdowns. Gibson is scoring touchdowns, and we always like that, even though you don't want to use that as a point to predict fantasy points, right? It's not a very sticky stat, but he's getting touchdowns. He's getting the work near the goal line, so you got to like that. So Gibson, I'd say for sure too. And then McKissic he's kind of like break in case of emergency, right? Break the glass if you need him, but I don't feel great that starting him if I have a better option, right?
Which you do in this case with Gio, I feel like. I feel like for me, it's Gio, Gibson, and Higgins. Gio, Gibson, and Higgins.
Yeah, McKiссic's nice to have, but he's not ever going to be a must start unless Gibson happens to get hurt. So.
Yeah. All right, G McPhee 123. This is an interesting one. Pick two between my boy Terry McLaurin, my other boy, I guess, Tyler Boyd, your boy AJ Brown. I don't know why I said he's your boy, and Robbie Anderson. So I think we can eliminate Anderson. I think we're both off Carolina. Especially those are three good choices, so I can feel good benching Anderson in this case. So McLaurin, Boyd, and AJ Brown.
I'd say I have him in that order. McLaurin, I mean, you start like he's the top choice there, and then I think in this matchup talked about how it could be sneaky high scoring. Boyd, Washington really tough against wide receivers statistically, but they're a lot tougher toward outside receivers. And in the slot where Boyd mainly works, not as much. Not terrible there, I'm not saying it, but I just feel like Boyd is going to be the main guy. And Higgins, we still like him, right? Even though again, it looks like a tough matchup, but Washington has given up some big plays to receivers. So to me, I got it in that order: McLaurin, Boyd, and then Brown.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough to bench Brown, but I can bench him for these receivers. All right, Justin Credible, who's another guy, really supportive of the channel. Appreciate you, Justin. You're here every week. You comment on our videos. Hope you're doing well. Here's one for you, Pierre. He didn't say that, by the way. I did. Jonnu Smith or Hayden. Anytime there's a tight end one, I just say it's for you. Jonnu Smith or Hayden Hurst. Ooh, interesting tight end choice there.
That is interesting. I haven't heard Hayden Hurst question in a minute. So talk about Hurst. He's just kind of there with Calvin Ridley back. That doesn't help. But, Jonnu Smith also, I've talked about how I really don't like Tannehill this week. I think it's going to be a Derrick Henry week. So I feel like Hurst is slightly safer. Jonnu Smith more likely to get you a goose egg. Really, you're just hoping for a touchdown because he's just not getting the volume. I mean, they're targeting him like 2 times a game. So I feel like against New Orleans defense, Hurst could do something, could score. So I don't love either player, but I'd still go Hurst.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I think it's Hurst too. But not in love with it. All right, then he also asks, do I start Jerry Judy or Jordan Wilkins?
That's Judy for sure.
Yeah, especially with Drew Lock playing. Drew Lock's bad, and he's going to throw a couple picks and get sacked 1,000 times. But he's also going to throw the ball to Jerry Judy a bunch. So it's okay.
Right.
Definitely Jerry Judy. And you say you need a high risk, high reward play. I think Judy has even a higher ceiling than Wilkins. Higher floor.
Yeah, he definitely is a high reward play. Wilkins had, honestly, look at it. He had that one good week. That's it. I know Green Bay's run defense is terrible, one of the worst in the league. But do we really feel good about Wilkins getting even 10 carries? Can you say that's going to happen? No, because again, going into this matchup, you're looking at teams, right? The Packers and the Colts are both good teams. Do you feel like you're confident enough that the Colts are going to have a lead at any point during the game? Not necessarily. I don't think they're going to be able to sit back and run the ball at will with their 3-man committee. I'm not feeling Wilkins.
Yeah. All right. Martin Kears asks, I have 4 decent running backs available this week. Well, hey, lucky you. We're all very jealous of you. Mike Davis, Antonio Gibson, Nyheim Hines, Kalen Ballage. Okay, I mean those guys are okay. I thought you were gonna say like Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, But okay, those guys are all right.
No, nobody has that team. Nobody has that.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you never know. He needs two of them, I guess. Yeah, he needs two of them out of those four. So Mike Davis, Antonio Gibson, Nyheim Hines, Kalen Ballage.
It's got to be the first two. I mean, Gibson's a must start, and then Davis again. Detroit's run defense not good. They don't have Bridgewater now officially. I mean, they're going to have to give the ball to Mike Davis a ton.
Yeah, I don't like saying Davis because I'm a jaded McCaffrey. I have McCaffrey in 2 leagues, and Mike Davis has done nothing over the last 5 games without McCaffrey. But if he's got to get it done this week against Detroit. All right, Vance Plank, Gio or James Robinson, full PPR. James Robinson. You got to play James Robinson.
James Robinson. Don't be too scared of the matchup. He's still the only running back that gets any touches in that backfield.
All right, Owen O'Connor, Gio, Duke Johnson, or Jacoby Myers, half PPR with bonuses. I'm assuming the bonuses is like 100 yards. I'm going to assume he didn't specify some of the
okay. The first time we've heard Duke Johnson mentioned. Now, Duke Johnson, of course, David Johnson on IR. So again, Duke Johnson's going to be the only guy getting touches in that backfield. Is New England's defense something to worry about for a running back? Actually, no, right? They've been a lot more generous against the run than the pass, but Duke Johnson's not your typical running back, right? He's a pass catching back. So I feel like Duke Johnson's kind of there in that, Gio Bernard territory, kind of like a mid-range RB2, right? Like, is he going to have a monster game? No, he's definitely not going to have a monster game, but he's going to give you that floor. So I don't know that I would lean towards him in this situation. How do you feel about Duke this week?
Yeah, I mean, he's okay. He's okay. Here's the thing. We say he's a pass catching back, but what did he get? 1 target last week? I mean, like, what's he going to really – it's not like he's going to get 6 or 7 catch. I mean, maybe he will, but it doesn't seem that way. Gio is also a pass catching back who is a better running back, honestly, who's going to get just as many touches, probably more receptions. I know it's half PPR, so that knocks down the receptions a little bit, but it also knocks down Jacoby Myers a little bit. So I like Gio out of these 3.
Yeah, I would still stick with Gio. Again, I do Johnson not very far behind Gio. But again, if you're talking bonuses, who's more likely to go off? It's Gio. And then Myers, again, if it was full PPR, I might consider him, but not particularly high on him this week.
Yeah. All right, Jay Heyman. I have Juju playing. Good, you should. But who should I start as my second wide receiver and my flex? Rager, Curtis Samuel, Fulgham, or Michael Pittman?
I like Pittman, and I've kind of talked about that earlier, so I would pick him. With Rager and Fulgham, I'm out on Fulgham for sure this week. Rager is also risky because, again, I said this, the Cleveland defense is really coming on. They're going to lean as much, which is smart. This goes to show that they actually have a good coach now, all right? This smart head coaching. They're leaning on their running game and not letting Baker Mayfield sling the ball 30, 40 times. And their defense, which, looked really rough early in the season, but has really kind of come on, even with, despite the Grant Delpit injury and, some struggles. I think it's going to be tough for both Philly receivers. I don't know that you would trust either one. So I would probably keep those guys out, and I would put Pittman for sure at wide receiver. And then you say you also need a flex?
Yeah, so it'd be Curtis Samuel, which I actually kind of like. I like Curtis Samuel this week because we've seen with McCaffrey out, he's going to get carries out of the backfield, especially with Bridgewater out. They're probably going to run the ball more. He's going to get those shovel passes. He's going to get those end arounds. So I feel like out of the Panthers pass catchers, he's the one I feel the best about actually with PJ Walker, because they're probably just going to get him involved any way they can and try to keep the ball out of Walker's hands as much as they can.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Because we've been saying, well, Bridgewater's out, you kind of downgrade those receivers, and that's true, right? Samuel is not a guy you have to start, but when you're comparing it to the Philly receivers, that's both, it's a shaky deal there. So I feel like exactly Samuel's the type of receiver, unlike DJ Moore, who they're going to get touches in multiple ways. So yeah, and that's not that we're high on Samuel, but he does have a better matchup too.
Yeah, Presley Hernandez. Here we go. First quarterback question. It's a doozy. Herbert or Lamar Jackson?
Wow. All right. Yeah, we don't get a lot of quarterback questions, which at this point you kind of know who you're riding with, unless you're a Lamar Jackson owner, which I still have Lamar Jackson just a little bit ahead. And I say that I got him 5-6. All right. I'm high on both. Tennessee's defense has been struggling. If Marquise Brown gets that 90-yard touchdown, then that makes his day. So,
yeah, I still got to play Lamar, but please, everybody, when you're about to draft Kyler Murray in the second round of your fantasy football league next year, because you're like, he's a running back and a quarterback, please.
First round. Please. What are you talking about? Second round, first round.
Whatever it is. Please remember Lamar Jackson in 2020 and don't do it. Don't do it, please.
And even Pat Mahomes to some degree last year, I know he was hurt, right? That was part of it because he missed, 3 or 4 games. But still, he didn't throw 50 touchdowns. He wasn't on pace to throw 50 touchdowns. It doesn't happen year after year. It just doesn't. And quarterback is a position you only need one of. Now, if you're in a super flex league, that's different. But yeah, you need one quarterback. The difference will not be that great. And guess what? Kyler Murray this year, Lamar Jackson last year, Pat Mahomes the year before, when they had their monster season, they weren't first-round pick. They were 10th round picks, or in this case, I guess Murray was a little more like 7, 8 or whatever. Those quarterbacks who come out to have the huge seasons, they are the guys that are drafted later on. So try to find that guy maybe, and don't overspend for the guy who had a great last season.
Yes. Fresh Prince 1986. 1986. That was we're already going long. That was an interesting year for me. I was 10 years old. Here we go. Another quarterback question. Carson Wentz or Taysom Hill?
Well, you've already answered this pretty much at length, right? You're going.
Well, I want to hear who would you start? Like you got your lineup and you're staring at Carson Wentz and Taysom Hill on your bench. You're trying to figure out who's going to be your QB this week. Who are you trusting?
Well, I'm out on Wentz anyways. Like I've already talked about the Cleveland defense being pretty good. Wentz has been he's been bad. I know the offensive
Myles Garrett though for Cleveland. Does that change anything for you? No Myles Garrett.
No. That doesn't change anything. Look, Wentz has faced a lot worse defenses and not done any better. I know you can say, and it to some extent, sure, like he didn't have Sanders for a while. Rager just came back, and they've been injured at receiver. Their offensive line, that's the main thing, has been injured. A lot of injuries there. But still, he's been one of the leaders consistently, him and Stafford actually, in bad throw percentage. Okay, that means bad decisions. And then maybe you can blame Peterson and game plan too, but Wentz has just not been getting it done. And I don't think it's him personally. I think it's a lot of things, but still he's feeling like he has to do too much, which is true. So it's not a good matchup. There's no reason you really should go with Wentz unless you don't have a better choice. And Hill, I mean, whatever you think of him is, that's a personal decision because who knows what the hell's going to go on with Taysom Hill, but still the upside is a lot higher with Hill.
Yeah. All right, Chris Montoya, half-point PPR. He needs one for his flex. Another Hollywood question. Marquise Brown, Michael Pittman, Jalen Reagor, again, half PPR. Or he could drop one of those guys for your boy, not really, my boy, Josh Reynolds.
Oh, no. Okay, look, let me say this about Josh Reynolds. You don't want any part of him this week. You don't want any part of him next week. But I said this on, I think, last week's waiver wire for wide receivers. You want him for the fantasy playoffs because week 14, 15, and 16 has the easiest schedule possible. And Seattle is part of that, but not just the only part of it. So you should stash Josh Reynolds, maybe, I guess, after this week. Reagor actually has a nice schedule, too, down the stretch. But for this week, out of those guys, I would still go with Pittman.
Yes, thank you for not picking Hollywood. Josh Reynolds is like your Hollywood Brown, right? He just – when you hear that, when you hear somebody ask that, you get all riled up, like, wow.
I'll just like, so we have, everyone has, don't pretend you don't, right? Even any analyst or anybody who's out there, you have your guys that you love that you're going to, carry the torch for no matter what. And you have your guys just out, right? It's never whatever. And they can change. Like I'll change my mind on a guy. Like at first I was like Travis Fulgham, whatever. And then it's okay. I see it now, but then of course now I'm reversing course on that too. But yeah, Josh Reynolds is never going to be a thing. So to me, it's never Josh Reynolds.
So we both are in agreement. It's Michael Pittman in his flex, right?
This week, yeah. But keep Reagor and stash Josh Reynolds. After he does nothing this week, you go pick him up and you drop somebody else.
Yeah, just drop Marquise Brown. He's useless. All right, LTMX. Pick one. I'm just kidding. I'm kind of kidding, but pick one.
You're half kidding.
Pick one. Jacoby Myers, Michael Thomas. Man, this is where we're at. Jacoby Myers, Michael Thomas, T. Higgins, Chris Godwin.
Pick one.
Yeah, it's got to be Higgins, right?
It can't be the first two. I would say, yeah, probably Higgins.
Yeah, Higgins. I like Higgins a lot this week. Jay Heyman. Everyone give these guys a like. God damn it. Thank you. They putting in some hefty work. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate it. Appreciate that.
Appreciate it. Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. It's not just this, right? We do this on Sunday mornings, every Sunday morning, but I've been trying to mention it. So guys, we give you this information throughout the week. Waiver wire, right? Give you my top 5 at each position in waiver wire, top 3 at quarterback and tight end, because you really don't need to go deeper than that. And then, we'll give you some instant reaction. We'll give you some trade strategies, some other strategies to do. And then, of course, start sit. So if you guys aren't watching those every week, I mean, we're trying to do everything we can, and things change so fast. I mean, Chris, I had DeAndre Swift as a must start.
Yeah. And then, it's like we publish a video and instantly DeAndre Swift out or has a concussion. It's like, oh, great.
Well, I mean, but that's 20. I think we should expect that in 2020, right?
Yeah, so. That's just 2020 for you. But guys, I appreciate that, Jay, but we can't do it without you guys. So we appreciate you guys just as much, because without you, we couldn't sit here and answer these questions. Right? So we appreciate you guys just as much, if not even more. All right. SR has a DFS GPP question. Pick 2 out of 3 running backs, Chubb, Henry, or Elliott. I know who I'm going with there. Let's hear yours.
2 out of 3. It's the first 2.
Yeah. If you can get Chubb and Henry in your lineup, you get Chubb and Henry in your lineup 100%. Okay. Going back. This is a question Justin Credible asked with the tight end between Hurst and Johnny Smith. He said he's worried because he's also starting Ridley. You don't have to worry about that. Like, I mean, yeah.
You don't want to do that too much. You don't want to get into, well, I'm starting this guy and I also have this guy on the same team, or I'm starting against this defense. You have to look at it in a vacuum. Who's going to give me the most points? I mean, that's it, right? How do you win? Each and every slot, each position, who's going to give me the most points this week? Not next week, not last week.
Exactly.
Based on matchup, based on whatever. Now, if a guy coming back affects this other guy's targets, then you look at that too. But you don't say, well, I'm too worried to have 2 Falcons receivers. You know what? Both could go off. That happens quite a bit with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. Both have big games. So I know stacking is more of a thing in DFS where it's boom or bust. You wouldn't lose, but don't worry too much about that.
Exactly. Then he asked, half PPR, Duke Johnson or Nyheim Hines in half PPR?
I really like Hines in general, not this week particularly, but I think Duke Johnson is just guaranteed. I mean, he's the only running back, and Hines is part of a 3-man committee still, so you got to go with Duke.
Yeah, and half PPR, even though it's not a huge thing, it does knock Nyheim Hines down slightly. In full PPR, I might lean Hines because he might catch 5 or 6 passes, but in half PPR, it's not as drastic. So yeah, I agree, Duke. Vance Plank, Geo. We're getting a lot of Geo questions today. Geo or Brandon Cooks in my flex? I let's just assume PPR. He didn't say, because if it's a standard league, it's Geo, right? I think we both agree.
That's one, and I guess I don't get, because Geo, I mean, Mixon is now officially gone. Like, we don't even have to think about him anymore. So to me, it solidifies Geo, right? I mean, I know that Washington statistically is not a great run defense to go against, but to me, Geo is pretty solid RB2.
Yeah, to me, Geo's every week top 15 running back as long as Mixon is out. So
yeah, pretty much, because they're not mixing other guys in there, except for, like, it's a kind of annoying. Perrine comes in near the goal line. I don't know why they're not giving their other guys, like Trayvon Williams, should get more touches. Jacques Patrick, they signed him for what reason? To get him more touches instead of Perrine. But yeah, I keep Geo. He's solid.
Yep. Colton Cash, pick 3 in half PPR. Godwin, AJ Brown, Geo. Another Geo question. Deonte Johnson. So right off the bat, we're both on Johnson is in, right?
Yeah, Johnson definitely. Geo is
one. So pick 2 between solid. Godwin, AJ Brown, and Geo. Which I think this seems pretty clear to me, but let's hear what you say.
Geo, and then I know we've kind of talked about Brown versus Godwin. I got Brown ranked higher. So yeah, that's what I would go with.
Yeah, it's AJ Brown, Geo, and Deonte Johnson, definitely. Sven1 FR Avila, which, by the way, you're here every week too. Appreciate you. Full PPR, pick 2. Man, we get a lot of A.J. Brown questions today, too. A.J. Brown, Michael Thomas. Who would have thought in 2020 Michael Thomas wouldn't be an every week must start? A.J. Brown, Michael Thomas, Juju, Calvin Ridley. Full PPR.
Got to be down on Thomas, honestly. And, think about what he was doing or not doing. Even when he was healthy, even with Drew Brees at quarterback, it was almost nothing, right? So I can't start Thomas over any of those guys, I don't think.
No.
So, and then Brown, go ahead.
Well, Juju's in your lineup 100%. So there's one. Yeah.
That's a no-brainer.
I know we talk about Brown, but he does have a tough matchup, and Ridley doesn't have any injury designation, so I think it's got to be Juju and Ridley, right?
Yeah, Ridley, if he's good to go and he's healthy and they're not lying to us, I think it's got to be Ridley. I know it's tough to keep Brown on the bench, but also you do have better options, it seems like. So Michael Thomas, I don't think we can even consider him when you have better options like that.
Yep. Crazy. You're going to have A.J. Brown and Michael Thomas on your bench, but it's the right play. Bronco plays, standard scoring, DJ Chark or Devonte Parker?
I've been disappointed by Devonte Parker the last couple of weeks, not going to lie. But, I'm used to that. I was disappointed, in him for about 4 years. So that's nothing new. But Parker, he's still the main guy. They don't have a lot of other options. I think you got to go with Parker. Chark maybe more likely for a big game, but also more likely that he could just totally bust. So I like Parker a little bit better.
Yeah, I like Parker too. I think he had a touchdown in that first game with Tua. He had a touchdown called back by a penalty last week, so it's not like he doesn't have a chance to score. He could just as easily score a touchdown as DJ Chark could, maybe even more easily. So definitely Parker for me. Kyle Grewing, apologies if I mispronounce your name. Half PPR, he needs 2. Jalen Reagor, Henry Ruggs, McCole Hardman, Leonard Fournette.
Wow. All right. This is very different from the last question where you have to sit A.J. Brown and Michael Thomas.
These are the questions that keep you up at night.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not late enough in the season. It's not like a must-win game. At least I hope so. Let me just. It depends where you're at. Okay, so let me say this. I wouldn't start Hardman. It's just tough because again, Watkins is out. I mentioned this way at the beginning of the show. But Hardman's been on the COVID list. He hasn't hardly practiced. I actually would prefer to start a guy like Demarcus Robinson because he could get more targets. And, working in the slot, this is a good matchup, particularly now, obviously Hill is the guy. But Raiders have shown that they are vulnerable to, the receivers in the slot. So if Robinson gets targeted, which, by the way, he's been targeted as much as Hardman this year. So that's basically a long-winded way to say not Hardman. Ruggs is just a nothing. He's like what you said with Hollywood Brown. He could get a 50-yard touchdown or he'll get nothing. It's more likely nothing. So I don't think you can go with Ruggs.
Yeah, I agree. So I think you have to play Reagor and Fournette.
Yeah, Fournette. The disappointing with Fournette is not a good matchup either. But if you have to pick out of those guys, Fournette, and then I guess would be Reagor. Yeah.
Yep. Don't feel great about it, but out of your 4 options, I think those are the best 2. Greg Chirinkin, Cam or Brady?
This is an easy one for me this week. It's Cam 100%.
Yeah, I think so too. He can always run in a touchdown. He's going to get probably 50 rushing yards this week. So yeah. And then pick a flex in PPR. Duke Johnson, Michael Pittman, Jalen Reagor. We've gotten a lot of Jalen Reagor questions today too. Jarvis Landry. There's our first Jarvis Landry or Brandon Cooks.
So again, I'll say I like Reagor down the stretch, like the next 3 or 4 weeks, but not this week. So not Reagor. Brandon Cooks, maybe. Give me them all again.
So Duke, Pittman, Jarvis, or Cooks. You can only pick one of those guys.
Man, I like Pittman generally this week, but not above Landry. I just don't think that that's a better play. Landry, I I don't love Landry this week, but I still have him above Pittman. I might go Duke.
Interesting. I think I'm going to go Cooks in PPR. I just like the upside there. Duke is fine. I guess Duke's fine if you want the floor. But again, it's not like he caught 5 or 6 passes last week. He could one target. It's not, you know what I mean? Like Deshaun Watson isn't a check down guy. He's gonna look deep and then come down short. He's not gonna like get panicked and look short. So I kind of like Brandon Cooks over Duke, but it's close.
And that's the difference you talk about. We've talked a lot about Nyheim Hines. Like, you have a quarterback like Watson who will throw to his wide receivers every time possible, or like Josh Allen. He will always look to his wide receivers. And then you got a guy like Phillip Rivers who, will kind of glance at the receiver and say, okay, yeah, that's nice. And then look to the tight end or look to his running back. He's the check down master. And there's some quarterbacks who are like that. And you got a younger quarterback, they're going to do that, right? Check down first. So yeah, Duke may not have the upside, but I just still feel like he's a safer play in this case because Cooks, I mean, it's just a tough matchup for Cooks.
Okay, I can't even say this person's name. I can't even believe YouTube allows you to have this name. Wow. All right. PPR, and I'm not even like a prude, but this is like, wow. Okay. PPR.
Some terms of service being violated, huh?
when we end the live stream, Pierre remind, like, say, hey, what was that name? And I'll tell you.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. PPR pick 2, Connor, Chubb, James Robinson. I think, to me, we both agree on this, right?
Chubb for sure. I mean, he's locked in.
Yeah.
And then still James Robinson.
Yes, still James Robinson. Chubb and James Robinson. Hopefully YouTube hasn't banned you yet. Navi Bagri. What's up, fellas? What's up, Navi? Appreciate you being here. You're here every week too, man. Appreciate you. Half PPR, he needs to start 2 out of Edwards-Helaire, Gio, and James Robinson. I think we're both on agreement on this one too. I mean, I assume.
Still James Robinson. Edwards-Helaire, it's our first time mentioning him. He's interesting. Don't hate him this week, but again, do I have him higher than Gio? No, because you have no idea what you're going to get with him. So crazy as it sounds, I think would still lean towards Gio.
Yeah, I mean, he got like 6. He's getting like 6 to 8 touches now. I mean, I know it's a good matchup, but 6 to 8 touches, like, again, this is another guy that we're just going off of name value and not what is actually happening.
And mention this too. I think last week kind of hinted toward this. The Raiders' run defense, the first 4 or 5 weeks was one of the worst in the league. The last 4 weeks, they've been a lot better. They've been actually one of the tougher run defenses. And this first matchup between these teams was high scoring. It was back and forth. And so if the Raiders can, get on the scoreboard quite a bit, the Chiefs won't be able to just sit back and run the ball. So I don't feel great about Edwards-Helaire this week.
Merrick Lassick. This is an interesting one. Half PPR. Gurley, Duke, or Nyheim Hines? Pick 2. You got to pick 2 of those.
Oh, pick 2. Okay. I say still got to be Gurley.
Yeah, especially in half PPR.
And then I know I'm a little higher on Duke than you are, but I would go Duke over Hines just because you don't know what you're going to get with Hines.
I agree. Again, half PPR it's not a huge knock, but it does knock Hines down a little bit. And then, no, you don't need to say. Okay, Valon Fleming, full PPR, Duke or Edwards-Helaire?
That's tougher. That's a little close, but that's, to me, it's a floor ceiling question. Do you want the guy who could have a big game or could do nothing? That's Edwards-Helaire. We just don't know how many times you're going to get him the ball. I still have Duke ranked a little higher just because I feel better about what his final total points, would be fantasy wise. And again, this doesn't matter PPR or non-PPR. I still feel the same way because again, it's not like either of these guys are actually catching the ball that much, which is crazy because we thought Edwards-Helaire is going to be a pass catching machine, and he's not, because again, is Pat Mahomes the kind of guy who likes to check down to his running backs?
No,
doesn't seem that way. So yeah, I give the slight edge to Duke.
I give a more than a slight edge to Duke. Like Edwards-Helaire, in my opinion, needs a touchdown.
Yeah.
Which he could get, but he needs it. All right. Shwetam Zarakar. Again, apologies if I mispronounce your name. I think we're going to both agree on this one as well. DJ Moore or Marvin Jones?
It's probably got to be Marvin Jones just because he's the number one receiver as opposed to, Moore's, who knows, second, third receiver with a backup quarterback. Then you got to go with Jones.
Yeah, definitely Marvin Jones. Fernando, full PPR, pick one for his flex. Ahmed or AP? I think we're both in agreement on this.
Definitely Ahmed.
Yep. ZXCH Phillips, Duke Johnson or Hines. We just talked about this. Duke Johnson, right? We just literally just had this question.
Yeah, there's no question there.
Ben Burry, Ahmed, Mark Andrews, or Damian Harris in half PPR.
If there's not a tight end bonus or premium, then I wouldn't go with Andrews, right?
No, I can't start a tight end outside of Kelsey over any running back that's playable.
This makes me wonder, either in like a flex league like what we have, where there is no tight end requirement, or you happen to have Kelsey, because if Andrews is like your second tight end option, that's interesting. But anyways, okay, so we're excluding Andrews. Just was it Ahmed or?
So it's your two boys, Ahmed or Damian Harris in half PPR.
I think, did I have them both as must starts this week? Okay. Yes. So start them both, but if you can't do that for some reason, I would actually go with Harris, because it's not like Ahmed is catching the ball out of the backfield either. I feel like better about the Dolphins, running over the Broncos than I do the Patriots running over the Texans. But I mean, Harris, he's just ripping off chunks of yardage. He's definitely more likely for 100-yard big game. So I like Harris still.
All right. I kind of like Ahmed a little more. He will catch some passes at least, which I always lean that way. But Harris
also, well, here's the thing. Your boy, this is definitely your boy, Matt Breida, right? He might be back, right? And who knows? He might be active and he doesn't play, but it's possible he works into the mix at least. Where last week they had nobody else touch the ball other than Ahmed. They gave somebody like 2 other carries, but it is possible, right? They work Breida in a little bit.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
All right, Autumn Pratt, pick 2 between Rager, Brandon Cooks, or AJ Green. I think. Well, go ahead. I'll let you answer first.
When we said about this game being high scoring, you can't start Green at this point, right?
No. 0 catches last week. Yikes.
I mean, yeah, it's just so weird, and I don't know what the play is there. I'm not sure what they're doing with Green. And now like Auden Tate gets more catches than Green, and then sometimes they had Green would come up with like 10 targets, and I just don't know. It's weird how they're using him or not using him. I just don't get it. Like, if he's not part of their long-term plans, which is obvious he's not, well, why not use him while you have him? I don't know. I don't get it, but you just can't trust Green.
Right. So it's Rager and Cooks, right?
Yeah. And I don't like Rager this week in this matchup, but at least he's a big play threat. And Green, I mean, he's a guy who definitely could get you a 0, and you don't want any part of that.
No. Okay. TikTok famous person on here. Gurley, Edwards-Helaire, or McKissick?
Just one?
Yeah, I assume just one. One of those guys.
It's got to be Gurley.
Yep, got to be Gurley. Miguel Felix, AJ Brown, or Jacoby Myers? I think we're both in agreement here.
AJ
Brown, can't sit him. I mean, it can, but not for Jacoby Myers. Roberto Aguirre. Would you start Fuller over Juju and Godwin? I'd start Fuller over Godwin, but not Juju, right?
No, you have to start Juju. Fuller over Godwin, that's closer. Fuller is going to be a more boom bust again. If Gilmore's playing, I don't know that he would necessarily shadow. He tends to be used in shadow coverage more. If he shadows Fuller, that's a tough assignment. Doesn't mean Fuller is guaranteed a 0, right? This year, Gilmore has been banged up. He hasn't been as good as last year. So I don't feel like Fuller's a must sit. Do I like him better this week? I don't know. That's tough. Where would you go? I would still probably have him over Godwin.
I got to play him over Godwin. It's not like Godwin. I'm not excited about Godwin.
Oh, exactly right.
Plus Godwin's upside. Like, he's not going to hit a home run. He might score a touchdown. He's not going to catch Will Fuller on one play can make his day, right?
Right. So I think just like Hollywood Brown.
And he'll still be targeted. So I think you got to start Fuller. So Juju, not over Juju, but over Godwin. All right, Fresh Prince 1986, Ahmed or Edwards-Helaire?
It's close, but I'd still go
Come
Ahmed.
on, Pierre, it's close.
I'm just saying, it's not like we guarantee that Edwards-Helaire is going to do nothing.
Ahmed or Le'Veon Bell?
Well, that's different. That's not the same thing. Le'Veon Bell is getting like 2 carries a game.
No, it is. No, they get the same. They get like 6. It's just that Edwards-Helaire has been scoring touchdowns. Like, look at his game log. He got like 12 points last week because he got a touchdown.
Okay, but Edwards-Helaire has actually done something this year. Like, he's had good games. Like, Le'Veon Bell hasn't been fantasy relevant all season or all last season. Like, Le'Veon Bell like doesn't exist to me anymore. Like, he's just there.
Okay. Let's look at Edwards-Helaire's last 3 games. 8 rushes, 6 rushes, 5 rushes. He's living on name value. He's 100% living on name value and touchdowns. And I get it. He can score touchdowns. Kansas City, he can score a touchdown any given week, but you're going to play a running back with 8, 6, and 5 carries over his last 3 games. Like, I can't.
I didn't say I'm playing it.
I don't care if his name was LaDainian Tomlinson. He's getting 8, 5, and 6 carries. I'm out. I'm out.
Look, I didn't say he's going to do anything. I'm not starting him. Like, it's definitely okay. Well, hey, let me clarify. I guess when I say it's close, I don't think that they're going to necessarily finish closely in their final fantasy totals. I'm just saying they're not that far separated in terms of rankings, just because there's a drop off that it's not huge. Like, Ahmed isn't guaranteed like RB1 this week, and then Edwards-Helaire isn't like, guaranteed huge avoid. Like, he's going to do nothing. He might do nothing. Like, there's a good chance he does nothing, but he's still on the best offense in the NFL. And it could be one of those weeks, just because we've seen the Chiefs do this. We've seen it where they give him 6 carries, they give him 2 carries, and then the next week they give him 20 carries, right? And he has 100 yards. It has happened. So it's not going to happen this week. I'm just saying it's not like a huge gap between those guys. It's not like if you say, oh, okay, Derrick Henry, or Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Okay, the last time he had more than 10 carries was the last game before Le'Veon Bell. He has not had more than 10 carries since Le'Veon Bell joined the team. I don't know.
But that doesn't make sense, because it's not like Le'Veon Bell's getting carries either. He's getting like 2 carries. So it's just they're like, hey, we have really 2 good running backs. Let's not run the ball anymore. Like, that's what they decided.
They're just running a super committee. So I think you got to play Ahmed. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, stop. No more names. Stop looking at the name. You got to look at the production. When the guy's only getting 8 touches, you're banking on a touchdown, right?
This is true. The same like the James Conner thing. Like, oh, it's James Conner and it's Jaguars. Yeah, they're going to give him the ball 10 times, and and then all the receivers are going to go crazy. So,
all right, McCrowler XD pick 2: DJ Moore, Fulgham, Higgins, AB, or Cup.
How many were we picking?
2.
Okay, Fulgham. I heard Fulgham, right? So that's no.
Nope.
DJ Moore, I don't have him higher than Cup, so that's probably no too.
I think Higgins has to be one of them, right?
Yeah.
So then it's between AB or Cup.
AB. Oh man, 2 sides of a bad matchup. Like, what are we going to get? I would go with Cup.
Yeah. I got to go with Cup too. He's kind of more involved. I do like AB going forward, but I think this week you got to go Cup and Higgins. We like Higgins a lot. So,
yeah.
All right. Mari Dadan, Boyd or AJ Brown? We had this one earlier.
Boyd or Brown? Probably Boyd, just because the matchup is a little bit better. But again, that it's tough because we don't know what Brown's going to do. But I would lean toward Boyd, the safety of Boyd. Yeah,
we had this one earlier. We both picked Boyd. It was like a 3 wide receiver, and Boyd and AJ Brown were to him. All right, Alden Tahirovic. Again, apologies if I mispronounce your name. PPR, got to pick 2 between Godwin, Crowder, Cooper, Pittman, or Jacoby Myers, J.D. McKissick. Godwin, Crowder.
Okay.
McKissick, I think, is out on that group, right?
Out of that group, wait, we're picking two?
Two. Yeah.
Okay, so not McKissick.
I think Cooper's in for sure out of that group.
Uh-huh.
So one between Godwin, Crowder, Pittman, and Myers.
Not Myers for me between those. Kind of like Pittman, but not better than those other guys. Godwin and so it's between Godwin and who?
Crowder.
That actually is close. This is full PPR?
Yes, full PPR.
All right. Well, let me see. You're leaning your ex-Washington player of Crowder?
I'm leaning Crowder. You're going to get more catches. I mean, probably you're going to get more catches. He's got that nice in PPR. He's always got that nice floor.
Right. Joe Flacco still at quarterback for the Jets. He seems to have a special connection with the Brashad Perriman, which I love to see. I got some Perriman in a couple of dynasty leagues. It'd be nice to see another huge Perriman week, but it's not guaranteed. Crowder is still the guy who should lead the team in targets. And it doesn't hurt. They're playing the Chargers, right? And the Chargers just traded their main corner, their slot corner, Desmond King. So that should open things up. So I would go Crowder. I think Godwin may be a better chance for a touchdown, but I would still lean Crowder.
Yeah, so Crowder and Cooper. All right, Mari Dadon, Mike Davis, or Gio Bernard?
Now that is close. That is really close.
Yeah, yes.
I know that's tough for you. That's a guy you love and a guy you hate.
Yeah,
but
this is really tough. My only concern with Davis is we have seen, again, like Edwards-Helaire, not as significant though, his touches have come way down lately. He's not getting 8 catches. He's not getting 15 carries anymore. But that matchup is so good, I think you still have to lean Davis. But it's close.
Yeah. To me, it's Davis. He's going to get more touches. The problem with the Bengals, this is why we can't rank Gio higher. Not that his personal upside is so limited. I mean, it kind of is. He's not ever going to be a bell cow guy. But when they get in the red zone, they're liking to pass the ball instead of running the ball. And also they're stalling a lot in the red zone and kicking a lot of field goals, right? They have one of the leading field goal kickers in the league as far as attempts and makes, because they're not scoring as many touchdowns as they should be. So it's harder to trust that that's going to happen. Now, is that going to happen with a backup quarterback in Carolina? Mike Davis is going to get touchdowns? Not necessarily, but Detroit's run defense is pretty bad. So I feel like Davis is going to get more touches. He's going to get more opportunities. He should get more points.
Yeah. All right. We got to start going rapid fire because we're at 10 minutes before kickoff.
I was going to say, guys, you got not much time to get those final lineups in. So last chance for questions. You got about 5 minutes.
So let's just go rapid fire. We don't need no more explanations. We're just going to tell you who to start, and you're just going to have to trust us. Khalil Mualem. Again, apologies if I mispronounce your name. Claypool, Johnson. I assume Deonte Johnson. Fuller, Myers, Mike Davis, Robert Woods. Pick 2.
If it's Deonte Johnson, he's got to be one. Give me the other one because I forgot all the names.
Claypool, I'm starting the 2 Pittsburgh wide receivers over Fuller, Myers, or Mike Davis, or Robert Woods. Start Claypool and Deontay Johnson.
Tough to not have Mike Davis in there because of all the reasons I just said. But, yeah, I mean, I think you got both those Steelers receivers in there, you're feeling pretty good.
Yeah. Wentz or Burrow with a 300-yard bonus?
Easily Burrow.
Yep, agree. Godwin or Nick Chubb at flex?
Easily Chubb.
Just some softballs. Come on. Nick Chubb for sure. All right. Your boy, Edwards-Helaire or James Robinson, PPR?
Not my boy. I'm not a Chiefs fan or an LSU fan, that's for sure. Okay, Edwards-Helaire or who?
James Robinson.
It's definitely James Robinson.
Definitely James.
That's not close. Not close.
Not close. Crowder or Boyd?
Boyd.
Yeah, that's not really close either, in my opinion. It's Boyd. Antonio Gibson or Kalen Ballage?
Gibson.
Yes, I agree. Herbert or Deshaun Watson?
That's interesting. I actually think I do have Herbert higher. Now, Chris, you have Herbert as a must sit, and I know you're basing this solely on the haircut, right? You think that his power has been sapped.
Yeah. I know it's a great matchup for Herbert, but I can't bench Deshaun Watson. He's been playing great since Bill O'Brien's been gone. He's a top 5 quarterback every week for me right now.
Really? Okay. So I'm not that high on Watson. I feel like and I dove into this a little bit this week. He's benefiting when the opposing matchup is really good. He's gotten a couple of big games, especially against Jacksonville. He's got some good numbers. He's been a little more average in tougher matchups, and against the Patriots, this is definitely obviously a tough matchup for pass defense. So I'm down on Watson a little bit. He's kind of a fringe top 10 quarterback for me this week. So I would still go Herbert, and obviously a smash spot with the Jets.
Okay, fair. Jacob Grode, flex, Gibson, James Robinson, Gio Bernard, Crowder, or Cup. I guess we're picking one of those.
One?
So if you got to pick one, it is.
Man, Gibson or
James Robinson. Gibson. Over James Robinson? Over James Robinson? You got him over James Robinson?
Based on the matchup, yeah.
Oh, wow. I still got to start James Robinson. Personally, I always chase the touches. I do like Gibson this week. I think it is a Gibson week. I think he'll be more involved than McKissick, but I still got to take those 15 to 20 touches from Robinson. So there you go. Good luck. Flip a coin on those two, I guess. Or whoever, whichever one between me and Pierre you like better, pick that one.
There you go.
All right, Dustin Wells, Gio or Balaj? And we've had this question a few times, and we both say Gio, right? It's kind of close, but Gio.
Yeah, it's not too far off, but I'd still go Gio. Balaj is obviously a good spot, but I would tell him to stick with Gio.
All right, last 2 questions, and then it's game time. Joshua Poplove, Marvin Jones or Claypool PPR?
Easy. Claypool, definitely.
Easy. And then Ben Thompson, another Marvin Jones question. Marvin Jones or Travis Fulgham in PPR? Easy.
Not Fulgham. Definitely Jones.
Definitely Jones. All right, guys. I think that was all. I think that might have been a record for questions for us. That was awesome, guys. Almost 2 hours. Wow. So we'll do one more real quick because I think we're Sam, Dowling, Jefferson, or Gio.
Justin Jefferson. It's Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson. Agree. All right, guys. That's it. Game's about to kick off. We got to go. We got to get ready. Pierre's dogs are barking. They're ready for football.
Literally. Yes, literally. But yeah, they're ready for game time. I think he's probably warning me that the queso is burning. So got to go get to that. All right, guys. Much mad love for all those who've been with us, especially if you're with us the whole time, and those regulars, like I said, who come every single week and show up. Appreciate it. Spread the word. Like someone said, I mean, we're putting in the work. We're here for you. Want to help? If there's something that you need, let us know in a comment. You can hit us up on Twitter, or of course, do the best thing is spread the word and tell everybody to follow the Fantasy